What is up, you guys? It is Breyonna, and today I thought we would test out another 9-pan palette by Morphe. I recently tried out the 9C Color Me Cool, and I'm just gonna say this, like, the pigmentation and the quality of the shadows of that palette, to die for. And if you'd like to check out that video, I'll have it linked in the description box down below for you. But again, like, spoiler alert, like, that palette, so beautiful and so underrated. But because I had such a good experience with that palette, I thought we would try out another one. And this one is called the 9K Khaki Calling. And this palette to me is literally a fall vibe. Like, it's really cool and interesting. It has some fall colors in here and some also really cool and unique shades. Because I don't know about you guys, but this like greenish shade right here, this is the type of shade you don't see all that much. And I also love this like dark bluish green. Like, that one's really cool too. Now, I'm just saying though, before we test out this palette, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and also give this video a like. And if you'd like to check me out over on my Instagram page or my TikTok, it is at Breyonna as well. As always, the first thing that we are going to be doing is priming our eyelids, and I'm just going to go in with my Anastasia eye primer since it is my favorite. And I'm just going to be taking it on this brush from Morphe from the Pride collection. It's kind of like a bigger shader brush. And I'm just going to be applying it anywhere that we are going to be applying shadow. So literally like all over the lid up to the brow. So once you have those babies primed, now we're going to jump into using the palette. And I think, you know what, let's go in with that green shade that I was talking about. And this one is called You're a Natural. Ooh, she got some pigment to her. And I'm just going to be taking it on this pointed crease brush from Profusion. I'm just going to be popping that right into my crease. Dang, like, that is actually really pigmented. I was not expecting that. You know, this shade kind of reminds me of those greens in the Dare to Create palette, if you've ever used that one. Like, those greens in that palette are intensely pigmented. This one kind of has like a similar vibe right away. And then once I have it in my crease, I'm just doing these like little circular motions to blend it upwards towards my brow. And if you hear any like noises or anything along those lines, it is Wenny. She's sleeping and I don't know, like she's like twitching and snoring really, really loud. And I'm just gonna go in with a second layer though, just to kind of see what happens. Oh yeah, you can definitely build it up. But even on initial application, like she has a lot of pigment. So now we're going to be going in with that deep and bluish green matte shade, and the name of this one is so weird. It is called Cell Yeah, like a cell phone, and then yeah. Like, why is it named that? It doesn't make any sense. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a good, well-named shadow, and I do like names for my shadows, but sometimes it's like, where do you get those names from? And I'm just going to be taking this shade on this brush from Luxie. It is a 229 tapered blending brush. And I'm just going to be applying this shade right into my crease because I want a little bit more definition in it. And I'm also using it to round out my outer V. I'm just doing these like little circular motions when I'm blending it upwards. Okay, so to me, as like a first impression, this shade is a little bit more on the sheer side. So I want to see if it builds up. So I'm just going to do a second layer. Oh yeah, she does build up. I was actually a little bit fearful of this shade because in the past, the shadows that have this type of color from Morphe have given me really harsh lines, or they look super chunky when applied. And so far, this one looks really smooth. It doesn't look smooth right here because I do have a dry spot right there from an eczema patch. But like over in this area, it does look really nice. But it is definitely not as pigmented as that first shade. So I'm just going to go in with a third layer. But you see what I mean though, like you can build it up, but you can also keep it a little bit more on the sheer side if you want a more wearable look, which honestly I do prefer a buildable formula. I know a lot of people do like their shadows really intense, but a buildable formula you just get so much better of a blend with, and it also allows you a little bit more versatility with your palettes. So to get a little bit more definition in the crease, I'm going to go in with this purpley brown shade called Really Busy, and I hope we're not really busy blending out this shade because it looks like one of those ones that might be tricky to work with. So I'm just going to be taking it on this teeny tiny little blending brush from the BH Cosmetics Zodiac Eye Set, and this is a number 4. And again, I'm just going to be applying it right into my crease. Like, she is snoring so loud. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but like she kind of goes when she snores. It's really, really funny. And when I'm doing this, I'm like pressing that pigment into the crease, like really getting like all up in there. And I'm just doing these like back and forth motions. And then afterwards doing these little tiny circles to blend it upwards. And I'm also using the shade to round out the outer V of my eye. I'm just going to do another layer. Like this shadow almost looks black. Like it has like a little hint of brown to it, but like dang, like it literally looks like a black shadow. So if you're not into black shadow, you might not like this one paired with the greens. I'm not too sure how it would look if you applied it with the oranges, but it is definitely not what I was expecting. Still really pretty though, and it's also applying beautifully too. Like it is not giving me any issues or harsh lines. And I'm just going to take that brush that we applied that deep green with and just kiss the edge of Really Busy. Just doing these little circular motions. And I also do not have any additional product on this brush. Just using whatever is left on it. And this will help just give us a really good blend and just make sure everything looks all nice and even. Okay, but this look though, like she's putting me in a fall mood, and I don't know about you guys, but for like the last week, I have been really wanting to do like fall looks and like dark grungy smoky eyes, and I don't know if it's because like the weather is getting colder and the leaves are changing or like what it is, but I am like definitely in a fall mood right now. But off camera, I am going to cut my crease, and today I am going to go a little bit higher up, you know, just because we do have a really dark smoky eye going on and I want that lid to pop. And then afterwards, I'll be right back to finish up the lid. So after cutting the crease, I'm just going to be packing that Really Busy shade, that cool tone brown, right on that harsh line of the cut crease. Like I'm really like pressing it in just to help diffuse it. I'm also going to kind of bring it maybe like a third the way in on my lid. And I'm just using this teeny tiny little eye shading brush from Lavish. So once you have that done, now we're going to start working on the lid, and I think today I'm going to use two different shimmer shades, you know, just for something fancy. And you know what, the first one we're going to go in with is this one in the center. It's kind of like a gold, kind of like copper shade, and it is called Dialed Up. And using this damp and flat shader brush, I'm just going to be applying it in the center portion of my lid. Ooh, that is really sparkly. Honestly, that is a lot more shimmery than the ones in the 9C Color Me Cool palette. Like this almost looks like a liquid metal. Super, super pretty shade. And again, I'm just applying it to the center of my lid. I'm keeping this inner portion blank for the next shimmer. And I'm also just kind of taking whatever's left on my brush and finessing it into that chocolate brown in this outer V. Just so we have a really nice gradient fade. I do not want any harsh lines other than that cut crease. I mean, like seriously, like look at how metallic that is. Like that's a stunning shade. You know, with the 9C palette having more of like an iridescent look to it, I was assuming that the shimmer was going to be more of like that wearable look and not like that super intense type. But this one is definitely very, very intense. Man, like the shade names in this palette are so cringy, but now I'm going to go in with the shimmery green one called It's Me. And then using a different flat shader brush dampen, I'm just going to be applying this anywhere that that base is still showing. Ooh, that's a really cool shade. It's kind of like a shimmery iridescent green, but it almost has like a little hint of neutral to it. It's really different. And I'm just taking whatever is left on my brush and slightly overlapping it with that kind of like coppery shade that we just used. Seriously, like that's a really interesting shade. That's one thing I really like about this palette's color story though, is that it's very different and very unique. It's just like a color story you don't see all that much. Yeah, this shade to me is a little bit more of like an iridescent, whereas the other one was more like a wet metallic. Okay, but this little green and copper moment on the lid, like girl, I am so obsessed with it. When I first thought about it, I was like, I don't know if the copper is gonna look weird and out of place or like if it's even gonna work. But the more that I look at it, the more I'm like, girl, why didn't you do this sooner? So if you've never tried out copper and green together, like I cannot recommend it enough. But off camera though, I'm just gonna like clean things up because as you can tell, I do have some fallout right here on my face, which is not cute. And I'm also, you know, going to apply like my foundation, lipstick, lashes, all of that good stuff. And then afterwards, I'll be right back to finish up the look. So here's I'm at right now after doing all of that off camera, and I decided to put like a dark kind of like purpley mauve lipstick on, and I feel like it just really balanced the look a lot. But now we're gonna start working on the lower lash line, and I'm just gonna go in with that bluish green shade called Sell Yeah, that deeper one. And I'm just going to be taking it on this teeny tiny little brush from Profusion. I always forget the name of it. It is called a small pointed eyeshadow brush. Literally one of the best brushes in my collection. I absolutely love it for the lower lash line. It's like the perfect size. And when I'm applying it, I'm just doing this like back and forth motion. You can also use a liner first and then smoke that with this shadow, but honestly, I want something just a little bit softer. I'm just going to do a second layer too, since this shade is a little bit more on the buildable side. So once you have that lower lash line all nice and smoky, now we're going to be doing my absolute favorite part, which is the inner corner highlight. And since we already used that lighter green shimmer shade on the lid, I don't really want to use it as an inner corner highlight. I mean, you can if you want to, but I want something a little bit more spicy. So instead, I'm actually going to be going in with my ABH Moonchild Glow Kit, and I'm going to go in with this green shade called Lucky Clover. Now, I'm not too sure how this is going to look, but I'm just going to be taking this shade on a Morphe M431 little pencil brush. And I'm like packing it down because I want it to be like extra bright and blinding. And I'm hoping that it's going to bring just a little bit more of like a green pop to the look. Oh yeah, that's the color. Like that is exactly what I was going for. And I'm going to do a second layer too just because I want it extra blinding. And then I'm just going to take whatever's left on my brush and bring it right underneath the inner tear duct area. I'm going maybe like a third the way in. If you don't have a green iridescent, I feel like a gold or like a champagne and maybe even like a blue iridescent would look super cool. I feel like it'd really play up the colors of this look too. So here's the finished look using the Khaki Calling palette, and oh my gosh, like the colors of this look and how they blended and just like the whole vibe, like I am just absolutely here for. So let's talk about the formula and let's go over the mattes first. And overall, very creamy and very easy to work with. Like literally none of the shadows in here gave me any issues. Even the darker ones, like I didn't get any harsh lines or any chunkiness with them. So if you're a beginner, I don't think you're gonna struggle with them either. However, with that, the shadows in here do have more of a buildable formula. So if you don't like building up your shadows, you might not like the formula of this palette because of it. But again, I actually do prefer a buildable formula. I know it's not everybody's style, but I find with a buildable formula, I'm able to get, you know, my blending to look a little bit nicer and a little bit more clean, especially with deeper shades. Because when deeper shades are way too pigmented, I find that I get more harsh lines. They're a little bit trickier to blend out. And I find that when I have a buildable formula, I don't struggle as much. As for the shimmers in this palette, again, we only used 2 of them. But this first kind of like coppery one that we use called Dialed Up, absolutely stunning on the eyes. It is like this beautiful like wet metallic goodness. It is extra reflective and just really pretty. Like if you like really extra shimmers, you're gonna fall in love with that one. As for the green shimmer shade that we use called It's Me, this one to me is a little bit more of a wearable shimmer and it almost has more of like an iridescent look to it. It kind of reminds me more of the shimmer shades out of the Color Me Cool palette, whereas the shimmer that I used in the center here reminds me more of the ones in the Such a Gem palette. So if you're into like iridescent shimmers and those more like wearable and transformative ones, you're probably going to find that one really stunning, but it is definitely not an extra shimmer. Like it doesn't have like that like super blinding look to it. So when it comes down to it, would I recommend this palette to you guys? And honestly, I definitely recommend checking it out. Whether you're looking for a fall palette or if you're looking for something with this type of color story, I think you're going to be really happy with it. Again, none of the shadows in here gave me any issues. They were very easy to work with and also beginner friendly. And this palette actually is very affordable too. You get 9 shadows in here and the price is $12. And you also get a really big mirror, which is really nice. And for being a neutral palette, I feel like this palette just has a really fun and different color story to it. I mean, you have like these really kind of like bluish greens mixed in with oranges. Just has a really unique vibe to it. But yeah, so in the comments down below, let me know what you think about this look and also let me know if you're going to be picking up this palette or not. But as always though, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and also give this video a like. And if you'd like to check me out over on my Instagram page or my TikTok, it is @BreyonnaFaye as well. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!